has authored legislation to make sure we have parity for our soldiers and airmen. He has co-sponsored legislation to make sure that our members get the benefits they deserve for the service they provide to this country. I'm way over my time, but it is, again, my honor to be here today. I can't think of a better man, a better person to receive this honor than Senator John Hoeven. So thank you.
Thanks, General, and thanks to NGAUS, to the TAG here in Colorado, and General Campbell. That was awe-inspiring and right on. To all of you, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I want to thank our TAG, General Dorman, and our great North Dakota National Guard members. Where are you guys? We love you the best. Absolutely. For nominating me for this award, the Harry S. Truman Award. This is absolutely fantastic, and I'm so deeply appreciative. Most of all, I'm just so appreciative of what you do. An American treasure, I think that sums it up perfectly. And I actually was going to refer to the Minuteman, because I always do, just like the General did. Because to me, that is absolutely real. I mean, our country started with the Minuteman answering the call, and ever since then, you've been answering the call. And I know, I was a governor for 10 years. And I've been in the Senate for 9. You're indispensable. Every single governor will tell you that. You're absolutely indispensable. The National Guard is indispensable. We can't do without you. You're absolutely vital to our country. And it doesn't matter what the situation is. It can be emergency here at home, fire, flood, tornado, you name it. Or it can be answering the call to put your life on the line, to make the ultimate sacrifice, as many of you have, as many of your colleagues have. Think of the incredible role that you've played in this war on terror, the deployment, how much of the burden that you've carried over many, many years. I can remember after 9/11, our National Guard MPs going into the airport to stand guard, because we didn't know the full scope of the threat at that time. And I can remember shortly after sending guardsmen over to Afghanistan to do that trailblazer mission, clear IEDs, and we had casualties. We had casualties from North Dakota. You had casualties from your state. And I was in Afghanistan on multiple times to see him. I've been in Afghanistan both as governor and as senator, and in Iraq, sending our multi-role bridge company over to bridge the Euphrates and combat engineers. Yep, and they did a fabulous job. They answered the call, and we had casualties. And at home, every single time I needed help as a governor, or we see on the national stage with a hurricane pounding down, who do we call? Who do you call? Who do you call? The National Guard, every time. And they're there, they're ready, and the problem solvers. And I'll maybe close on this and one other item on some legislation I'm working on and I want your help on. But it didn't matter what the challenge was. And there wasn't oftentimes a roadmap, but you always showed up and you always delivered. I can remember one time we were fighting floods in North Dakota. We had floods in Fargo and the Red River Valley. The Red River of the North was flooding, and the Missouri River was flooding in Bismarck and Mandan. And the Guard was over fighting the flood in Fargo, and they did sandbagging, millions of sandbags, and that because we were getting breaches in the levees, they developed this 1-ton sandbag that they'd bring in with Black Hawks, and if there was a breach, they'd bring in these 1-ton sandbags and drop them in, and they were protecting Fargo, keeping the community dry. In the meantime, we had ice jams on the Missouri River between Bismarck and Mandan, and the river's going up, and Mandan's a little higher, but Bismarck's starting to flood. So we asked the Corps of Engineers, well, what do we do with this ice jam? How do we fix this? Our city's starting to flood. Businesses, homes are starting to flood. I said, well, there's a couple things you can do. One, you can put salt on it, or two, you can try to blow it up. So I said, well, if we put salt on it, how does that work and how long does it take? Well, you go out and you put salt on it, you got the helicopters, you can do all that. I said, fine, how long does it take? Well, a few days, maybe, depends how cold it is and all that. Well, I said, no, the city's flooding now. So I said, well, your other options, blow it or not. I said, okay, fine, we'll blow it up. How do we do that? Well, no one in the United States has really done that. But in Russia, we heard they did it, but the Russians won't give us any information on if they did it, how they did it. I said, oh, okay, well, we're going to do it. So I get our adjutant general and our guard, and we get together, and we send one of our C-21s from the Air Guard at that time to Pittsburgh to pick up a demolitions team, expert demolitions team, actually out of Idaho, but they were in Pittsburgh at the time blowing up a building. You know, one of those deals where they drop her straight down right in the middle of town. Pretty cool. So we pull them off of that, put them on the jet, whisk them in. They get there same day. We got them to work plotting. We get tons of explosives from Camp Grafton. I mean, our guys' eyes were just lighting up. It was like we didn't have to ask for volunteers on this duty. I mean, they're hauling, I mean, the stuff you mix, the blue and the green that turns purple, the plastic, everything you can think of. Bring it all. They bring her down. 7 helicopters, I think we had 5 Blackhawks, a couple Hueys. We load them to the gills. Of course, everybody wants to go. So between men, people, and equipment, and explosives, we helicopter out onto the ice jam. Of course, I'm going. You can guess. I ain't going to be left behind on this caper. No way, no how. They auger out like 75 holes all over this huge ice jam. They put the explosive in there. They link it all together. We get in the helicopters. We fly back on shore. And I don't know, probably the tag got to give the let her rip command. And boom, they blow that thing right in the middle of the town, right between Bismarck and Mandan, right in the middle of the Missouri River. They blow that thing sky high, and trees are coming out of there, and rocks and ice, and the water just pours out of there, and the city doesn't flood. Just one more example of the National Guard. How's that? Just another day in the National Guard. Okay, I've gone on long enough. I could tell a lot of stories over my time, but there's stories about you, your service, and how really magnificent you and all your colleagues are, men and women in the National Guard, in the Army Guard, and the Air Guard. It's not just me, it's the people love you. They know what you do. They know you answer the call, and you have since the time of the Minuteman. One thing I do want to mention before I wrap up is that I do have what's called the Montgomery GI Parity Act. The Montgomery GI Parity Act. And it's a bill I'm sponsoring. It's bipartisan. I got Pat Leahy from Vermont on there, and I've got John Bozeman from Arkansas on there with me. And we're pretty well situated. As the general said, I'm on defense of Propes and Milcon. But what the bill does is it would make sure that you can use your federal tuition assistance benefit and your GI Bill education assistance together for your education, okay? Right now you can't do it. But our active duty forces can do it, but our Guard can't. So our bill would say, no, the Guard can do it too. And think how important that is, not just for y'all that are in the Guard, but to bring these young men and women into the Guard. If they can get that education and pay for that education while they're guarding our country, that's what we want. And that is an incredible recruiting tool. So we need to get it done. All I ask is, you know, when you talk to that congressman or you talk to that senator, if you talk to, you know, any of the folks in D.C. or at home when you can in the Guard and in the executive, put in a good word and let's see if we can't get that done, okay? All right. Thanks for the word. God bless you. God bless America.
Can we get a photo with the presentation, sir? That'd be great. Get you on the left side there. Right here. There's your photo.